Donald Trump's political grip is slipping, and nowhere is that becoming clearer than in a state he once counted on as solidly red. Trump's approval rating in Ohio is tanking, completely tanking. He no longer has a single positive favorability rating in the state. His net approval is now underwater. And at the same time, the Democratic candidate for governor, Dr. Amy Acton, a physician and longtime public servant who is deeply trusted in Ohio, is surging ahead in the polls against MAGA's hand-picked candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy. And that surge came after Donald Trump endorsed Ramaswamy. Let that sink in. The Trump endorsement didn't help. It hurt. And the reason is simple. The people of Ohio are being crushed by this Trump regime. Trump can get on social media and tell people they're living in a golden age. He can say life has never been better. But Ohioans, like Americans everywhere, know the truth. Unless you're a billionaire, unless you're part of that Mar-a-Lago club, unless you're inside Trump's inner circle of donors and cronies. For everyone else, life has gotten harder, not easier, more expensive, more unstable, more uncertain. So let's talk about what's actually happening on the ground in Ohio. First, healthcare. People in Ohio are terrified, and they have every reason to be. The Affordable Care Act subsidies are set to expire, and if they do, the consequences will be devastating for real people, real families, not abstractions. A 40-year-old man making $32,000 a year could see his health insurance premiums jump more than 200%. That's an extra $122 every single month for a basic benchmark plan. A 60-year-old couple, their premiums could skyrocket by more than 250%, around $1,500 a month. Most families cannot absorb that. They just can't. When you're already living paycheck to paycheck, when you're choosing between groceries, rent, gas, and childcare, a sudden four-figure monthly health insurance bill isn't just stressful, it's impossible. And what happens then? People go uninsured. They skip doctor's visits. They delay care. They end up sicker, poorer, and more vulnerable. And this isn't accidental. This isn't a glitch. This is the direct result of Republican policy choices under Trump. Choices designed to weaken, sabotage, and ultimately destroy the ACA. And that's just one piece of it. Let's talk about jobs. Let's talk about manufacturing. Ohio is a manufacturing powerhouse. It's third in the nation. And yet under Trump's economic policies, his reckless tariffs, his trade wars, his incompetence, manufacturing jobs have taken a brutal hit. Job losses have surged by more than 50% in the past year alone. We're talking about numbers that start to resemble Great Recession territory. Manufacturing jobs, construction jobs, skilled labor, all of it getting squeezed. And instead of helping, the Trump regime has actively gone after programs that support Ohio workers and small businesses. Take this example. Federal funding that helps small and mid-size Ohio manufacturers, funding that supports innovation, staffing, and growth, was suddenly halted. Millions of dollars frozen. No explanation, no transparency, just cut off. This isn't some abstract policy fight. This puts more than 100 jobs directly at risk and threatens support for more than 14,000 manufacturers across the state. The Manufacturing Advocacy and Growth Network, MAGNET, has been helping Ohio manufacturers for 40 years. 40 years, and overnight $5.9 million in funding is suspended. When they asked why, they were told there's an audit. No report, no timeline, no details. Even state officials were left in the dark. This is what governance looks like under Trump: chaos, cruelty, and total disregard for working people. It's as if they genuinely resent the people of Ohio. And honestly, I think Trump does. Now contrast that with what's happening politically in the state. Dr. Amy Acton is running for governor. She's not a career politician. She's a doctor, a lifelong public servant, someone who worked with governors of both parties to solve real problems, someone who earned trust during the hardest moments Ohio faced. And as she's traveled the state, listening, really listening, she's hearing the same thing everywhere. People are working harder than ever. They're doing everything right, and yet there's no breathing room left. That's why she's running, because she refuses to look away while special interests and extremist politicians drag the state backwards. And then you have her opponent. Vivek Ramaswamy, a billionaire running what can only be described as a vanity project, has a very different message for Ohio. His explanation for why people are struggling? According to him, they're lazy, mediocre, not working hard enough. He actually said that. Imagine saying that to people working 2 jobs, to parents barely holding it together, to families crushed by rising costs. That alone tells you everything you need to know. And look at the contrast in how these campaigns operate. When you see Dr. Acton in the news, she's standing with steelworkers, she's talking with manufacturers, she's driving herself across the state in an old Jeep, she's listening. When you see Ramaswamy, he's backtracking on his own statements, blaming AI for videos he doesn't like, canceling appearances, flying over Ohio in private jets, treating the state like a pit stop in his personal branding tour. He called Ohioans lazy and then wonders why his numbers are collapsing. People see through it. They're exhausted by the chaos, by the culture wars, by politicians who create problems instead of solving them, by billionaires who lecture working people while never experiencing their reality for even 1 second. And this is important. What's happening in Ohio isn't a Democrat versus Republican story anymore. It's something much bigger. It's extreme wealth and power versus everyone else. People showing up at Acton's events aren't just Democrats. They're independents, Republicans, people who don't care about party labels anymore. They want competence, stability, empathy, solutions. They want public servants again. They want leaders who focus on the 95% of issues we all agree on: healthcare, jobs, childcare, housing, education, instead of endless division and performative outrage. And Ohio is becoming a bellwether once again. What happens there matters, because when a state like Ohio starts rejecting Trumpism after years of being told it was locked in forever, that sends a message, a powerful one. It says the MAGA spell is breaking. It says people are waking up. And it says that even in places Trump thought he owned, voters are reclaiming their voices. So pay attention to Ohio. Pay attention to these races, because this isn't just about one governor's seat. It's about whether this country continues down a path of cruelty, chaos, and billionaire rule, or whether regular people finally push back and demand something better. Hit subscribe, stay engaged, because this fight is far from over, and what happens next depends on all of us.